Yes, indeed. From a place of joy. Opening to joy. So, we've been exploring all month this power of will. Every month we are visiting one of the 12 powers and doing a deep dive. We've been talking about the power of will and the three aspects that are included in that. And a couple weeks ago, we learned some hand motions to help us remember those three aspects. Do you remember the hand motions? Okay, so choice, right? So choice is, the power of will is right here, but we want to connect that with wisdom, our power of wisdom. So wisdom informs our choice, right? That's the first one. The second one is commitment. So this Anjali Mudra here at our heart center. So from our heart, we decide from what our heart wants. We are committed to following that to completion. We're also committed to getting support, right? So that's commitment. The third one is willingness, palms open. I am willing to follow divine guidance. I'm willing to be of service. Now, you will never forget that. We've got our three motions. So in general, our power of will helps us see that we are not passive passengers, on the journey of life. That, the ride is not predetermined. We don't have to get on the train that goes around in circles or that takes us where it wants to take us. We determine the destiny. We determine the destiny. And, and if the trip, sometimes that trip can take us up some steep mountainous paths, right? Sometimes our journey does that, but that's okay. We've got our power of will. That's the power of commitment. We're commitment to seeing it through no matter how arduous that journey is. And we're also committed to getting support from others, from community, which really makes it work. Also, our power of will reminds us that along the way, we want to be of service. We want to be willing to be of service to others because honestly, that's what makes the journey joyful and fulfilling for us, to know that we're not in this by ourselves, that we share it with others and they with us. Now, to be clear, we are not directing it. We're not demanding that the train go our way. We're not from our head, from our ego brain trying to give directions. The thing about the brain is interesting. I was just listening to a series this week on NPR about it's an amazing organ. It's just amazing what our brain can do. But it is limited. It's limited in its perspective. It just can't possibly see the larger universal vision, right? That's the divine wisdom within us. That's the divine wisdom that sees that larger picture. So, in unity we say that we want the brain to take its proper place, which is in service of the soul, not the other way around. And we looked at what happens when we allow ourselves to be led by our egoic thinking, the trouble that we can get ourselves and others in. And we were talking about the journey, Odysseus's journey and his men, the mistakes from the ego brain that they were making and getting themselves and others into a lot of trouble. We were talking about the Odyssey on that first week. So remember I talked about one of the things from that movie is having a symbol that keeps us connected to our commitment. So we remember, and I was saying that he's got this pin that is this Athena. It's the goddess of Athena, which is, And so I went and got one. I got my own Goddess of Athena pin here. So I can touch this and remember, oh, whoops, committed. Where am I going? Because it's so easy to get sidetracked. It's so easy to go off in different directions. Oh, right, I'm committed to this. What is my purpose? Always coming back to that purpose. And when we allow that divine wisdom within us to lead the way, and we're willing to follow it, we're willing to follow our guidance, we're willing to step out, we are willing to be of service, then our journey becomes a joyous adventure. And who knows, it might be a blessing for others as well. All right? So willingness can really take us far. Willingness can take us far. It can actually contribute to our growth, which I know sounds counterintuitive. We often think of willingness as a passive thing, as like what makes us vulnerable. But we know better, right? Because we have studied Brene Brown. And they tell me this works if I point it in this direction. The screen on. The screen is on. If we all focus together, let's all put our minds together. Woo! It worked! Yay! Thank you all. See, it needed the collective energy. Come on. All right, so she says, the willingness to show up changes us. It makes us a little braver all the time. And of course, her argument is that vulnerability isn't a weakness. That instead, when we're willing to walk into situations where it's uncertain, where there is, this risk of emotional vulnerability, and particularly when we can't control the outcome, that makes us stronger. That makes us stronger and braver. So willingness comes before courage. We don't necessarily have to feel brave in order to act. We become brave by being willing to show up. By being willing to show up. And what was that famous Woody Allen quote? 90% of life is just showing up. Yeah, that's what it is. 90% of life is just showing up, or of success is just showing up. Now, we might rephrase that in unity as a willingness to be present. A willingness to be present and available. And to follow our guidance, to step forward into that contributes to our growth and unfoldment. In other words, our success. And so, from that understanding, we can reframe these three aspects of power of will as, number one, choice. I choose from a place of divine guidance. Remember this? 2, commitment. I keep showing up regardless. I keep showing up regardless. Regardless of how much I'm, shaking in my boots. Or I don't know what's going to happen. I show up. Willingness. I am willing to be changed by what happens when I show up. Yes. Yes, we are changed as a result of showing up. We're changed as a result of our willingness. We see things differently. We experience things differently. Don't we? We see and feel things differently. We become more of who we truly are. And we begin to trust ourselves. And we begin to trust the universe. When we continue to step forward regardless, we begin to trust. Think about a time in your life. Trust is big. Think about a time in your life when you stepped into a situation where you just didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know how it was going to go, or why you were even there in the first place. But you just showed up. You just became present with that situation. And you knew that you were where you were supposed to be because you were following divine guidance, right? And you began to trust that you were going to be okay. And as you move forward into that, something beautiful emerged. And you became more of who you truly are. Think about a time. Think about a time in your life where that happened. So my daughter called me the other day, and many of you know Juliet, who has just gone back to school at App State in Boone, and she's just starting her last semester. And one of the courses that she had to take for PE, she had to have a PE unit, she chose diving, like, underwater diving. And yeah, that's offered. I actually took it in college too. Well, of course, I was in San Diego, so it was a little easier. We're right there on the Pacific Ocean. I don't know, they're doing the diving in a lake somewhere, I don't know. But she called me, and she was in panic. And she said, Mom, give me a pet top. I'm so scared. I have to do this assessment where I have to tread water for 10 minutes, and I have to swim continuously, nonstop, for 12 minutes. And other things. I'm just not sure. Like, she's not, the world's, like, physically fit. I mean, she's gotten more, but she doesn't swim a lot. So she was panicking. She was sure she wasn't going to do it. She was thinking, I'm going to have to drop this because I'm going to fail. And then I'm going to start crying and then, all of that. So give me a pep talk. And so the first thing we did was reconnect her with the reason she wanted to do this in the first place, which is when we were on vacation in Zihuatanejo. Hi, Maria. We were staying at Maria's house in Zihuatanejo. We went snorkeling, right? And beautiful tropical fish and coral reefs, and it was just gorgeous. And she said to me afterwards, I found my happy place. This is my happy place. It just felt so good to be with that. And I said, imagine if you didn't have to come up to take a breath. Imagine if you could stay under the water and go even deeper and continue to follow those fish around. She's like, oh. So we reconnected with the vision. Why did you want to do this in the first place? Right? So we reconnected that. And I was like, then just be willing. Just be willing to show up. Just be willing to try. Yeah, you may fail, but you never know until you do. Just be willing to do it. She called me that evening and she said, guess what? I did it. I did it. It was really hard. I almost didn't make it. I'm so exhausted right now, but I did it. And think about what will open for her. I mean, literally a new world underwater. It's a whole new world. Think about what can open for you when you're just willing. You're just willing to show up. You're willing to say yes. Imagine the world that can open up when I don't know, I'm just following divine guidance. I'm just supposed to be here. I'm showing up. Tell me what to do. Imagine what can open. When you think about the times in your life you've done that, those are the times when things have begun to start moving forward, right? You meet new friends, you have new experiences, you find a sense of belonging, all of that. You become more of who you truly are, right? Okay, so anybody ever heard of the word entrainment? Do you know what entrainment is? It's when a higher organized system brings a lower organized system into coherence. And it happens in many different fields, in physics, in biology. I actually have a story to share with that. So we live on a pond, on a little lake, and we have a whole family of ducks that love to hang out on our lawn. Makes my husband really mad because they're eating the grass. But sometimes they're all lined up in a row at the edge of the of the shore. You've heard put your ducks in a row. I guess that's where they got it, right? All these ducks are in a row, and then suddenly, I guess it's the alpha duck decides, oh, it's time to go for a swim. Or it's time to swim over to the other side of the lake and see what it's like over there. I don't know. But the moment that duck goes in the water, all of the other ducks line up behind that lead duck. They're entrained with this lead duck. And they go across in unison, in this beautiful harmony. So that's how I've observed it. It's also true in human behavior, just to create social bonding. Very often, you're unconsciously, you sort of shift your speech pattern to match the person that you are, you're the lead person in the conversation, because that creates bonding. I was noticing myself when you were up here singing, and the joy and the energy. This is like we were all entrained into that energy of joy and the way of celebrating. That's how it happens. Well, I think it also happens spiritually. And here's how. So if we connect with our divine wisdom, that inner divine wisdom that is all around us and within us, and we think of that as that higher organized system. We regard that as the higher organized system, and we allow that to lead. All of the lower organized systems come into alignment with it, come into coherence with it. That lower system of the brain and our egoic thinking and fear and doubt all come into coherence because they're guided by this higher system. And when we're willing to give the results, the outcome of whatever it is to this higher organized system, all of us comes into alignment like ducks in a row. And we're traveling together in harmony and in unity. You see? All right, so I invite you to do a little meditation that kind of anchors this in. If you would, sort of sit back, relax. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes or just gaze softly down. Take some deep breaths. Imagine that you are enfolded in a blanket of love and light. That you're surrounded by this protective love and light. Breathe that in. As you breathe, you're breathing in this light. You're breathing in this love. Feel your body just relaxing into that protective light of love. Now bring your awareness to your solar plexus. You might want to place a hand there if it's helpful. This is the seat of wisdom. Your power of inner divine wisdom. And let your belly completely relax as Pat was guiding us in the meditation. We're so in alignment with this. Let it be soft. Your diaphragm, your gut, behind your belly button. Imagine a rubber band that has been stretched and taut is now relaxed and just hanging loose. Breathe into that. Feel that sacred softness. Tender. Nurturing. Now in this relaxed and open and willing state, you can open to the wisdom that is emerging from that power center. This is your higher organized system. And feel that higher organized system, that relaxed, sacred energy now radiating up through your spine in a column of light and connecting with your brain, connecting with the power of will at your prefrontal cortex here. You might want to place your other hand on your forehead. Feel your power of choice entrained with this power of wisdom. And they're resonating together in this perfect rhythm, this perfect divine rhythm. Everything is in alignment, all the other parts of you in alignment, all the other fears and doubt and apprehension just fall away. And you are moving forward out of that beautiful sacred space of willingness, willing to listen to the divine guidance, willing to be present, willing to show up, willing to be, willing to be fully. Take a deep breath and begin to bring your awareness back into the room, back fully into your body. Move a little bit, look around, coming fully back into the here and now. And so we're going to say an affirmation together that will anchor that in. Just take a look at that first. And together, I trust Spirit. I am willing to move forward into life in total alignment with my inner wisdom. I am willing to learn a new way of being. And so it is. So it is. Namaste. Hi, it's Reverend Victoria here. I'm at Unity Center of Peace with our house band, Bright Matter.
Hello.
Yeah, and if this video has inspired you or empowered you or opened your heart, opened your consciousness, or even just given you hope, we ask that you support what we're doing here by making a donation today, going to unitychapelhill.org or clicking the link below. And we thank you.
Thank
Thank you.